The Boston Celtics just dropped 82 points against Trae Young's Atlanta Hawks. Oh, wait a minute.
The Celtics are sending Drew Holiday to Portland for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round draft picks.
Breaking news out of the association surrounding the Boston Celtics.
The Celtics have traded Kristaps Porzingis to the Atlanta Hawks.
50 for Jaylen Brown. This is Pritchard's side. The crowd can sense it. Over 3 Bulls.
Great in and out dribble. Oh! He set off the smoke detector.
What's up, everyone, and welcome in to an instant reaction here on your Celtics source as the Boston Celtics absolutely obliterate the Atlanta Hawks. And I meant it when I said Trae Young in the intro, because the defense tonight from the Atlanta Hawks looked like the defense that you might be getting from Trae Young out there. But Trae Young isn't on this team anymore. I thought this team was supposed to be good defensively without Trae Young. Not giving up 82 points in the first half. Sam Hauser ties his record on three-pointers. He breaks another record, which we'll talk about. He wasn't even the best player on the Celtics in this game. Jaylen Brown was dropping 41 points, playing just 30 minutes, doesn't play the fourth quarter. Derek White, only 7 points from him. He has 12 assists in this game. Everything was just rolling for the Celtics in this game. And once again, Anthony Simons was the spark. We're going to get into all this, but before we do, I'd ask that you please like and subscribe, follow on social media. We do an instant reaction like this after every single Celtics game. We have podcast episodes after every third Celtics game. This is the third Celtics game, so we're going to have a podcast episode dropping tomorrow morning. I'm going to record it after I'm done recording this one. So make sure to check those out on YouTube or Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. But in this game was a fantastic bounce back from the Miami Heat game. And you might be saying, you won in that game. You beat the Miami Heat. But it was the way you won that game. You won that game from a brilliance from Anthony Simons, yes. But it was a defensive struggle from the Celtics all night long. Missed opportunities on the offensive end, turnovers from Jaylen Brown, and they just put that all in the rear view mirror and just exposed the Atlanta Hawks in this game. And we're going to go through player by player and talk about how they got this win, starting in the first half, where they drop 82 points, a season high. I believe the franchise record is 96, which they had back in the 1959-60 season, I believe. But it was the 52 points in the second quarter. 29 first half points from Jaylen Brown. We're going to get into what Jaylen Brown did in this game. But as I said, it was the spark from Anthony Simons. And Anthony Simons, he only scores in this game, if I'm not mistaken, 14 points, 5 of 10, 4 of 8 from 3, if I'm not mistaken. But it was when those shots came. They came in a game that was relatively close throughout the first quarter. More of just a track meet. Celtics making shots, Atlanta making shots. And Anthony Simons hits back-to-back threes to make the game from a 10-point game to a 16-point game. And Atlanta calls timeout, and the Celtics never look back from there. They come right back on and just hit a barrage of three-pointers. I mean, in this game, the Celtics shot 22 of 52, 42% from three. And quite frankly, it was a lot higher than that until Sam Hauser missed, 8 threes in a row, it felt like, to end the fourth quarter when he was trying to go for the record. Unfortunately for Sam, it feels like he always comes up one three-pointer short, runs out of time to get what he's trying to do, and in this game, he actually just looked tired and he couldn't go anymore. We'll talk about Sam in just a second. But Jaylen Brown, he has that rough game against Miami, and yes, he did close well in that game. We talked about that, but he struggled mightily throughout most of the game. In fact, he got benched for Anthony Simons in that game. The turnovers were a big problem for him in that game. He was sort of careless with the ball, sort of tunnel vision, which he does from time to time. But for the most part, he's been brilliant this season. And he has that one game where he struggles. And over the last week, actually, he struggled a little bit. Teams have been doubling him, forcing him to give the ball up, and it hasn't come with great results for the Celtics. Obviously, they lose the game in Indiana without him, but they lose that game to San Antonio, to Denver, where Jaylen Brown has struggled. But in this game, he turns that right around. He gets right back to his winning ways. And he does have the one turnover, but it's the 41 points. It's the, I'm coming home. I'm going to show out in front of a hometown crowd, right? He's from Atlanta. He actually went to visit his high school before yesterday, I believe it was, and he got his jersey hung in the rafters at his high school, which is kind of cool. But he shows out in front of this crowd and puts the team on his back, and really, he doesn't need to do that because everything was working for the Celtics. It was really a my turn, your turn. Sam Hauser would hit a three, then Jaylen Brown would come down and he get to the basket. He had some ridiculous plays where he would get fouled and then he'd find a way to throw it up and get it in, get it to go for an and one. Plays that we don't usually see from Jaylen Brown. He's usually more of a muscle to the basket, not more of a finesse sort of, get the ball to just bounce in off the rim, right? So just some, crazy shot making from him in this game. And, it's hard to say, that there's much to take out of this game besides the fact that you shot the ball well, because when you're shooting the ball well, everything works for you. It just feels like, you play better defensively when you're shooting well. You play better offensively when you're shooting well. And so that's why I don't want to, harp on the fact that this was, they found something in this game, because they could just as easily against Detroit on Monday go right back to slumping. But the benefit of a game like this is that you can rest all your guys, right? Jaylen Brown plays just 30 minutes, Hauser 30 minutes, Kata 24, White plays just 25, Shireman actually plays the most with 32 minutes. Obviously, he plays the entire fourth quarter. And he got the start tonight, actually. I think this might have been his first start of the season. Maybe not. But, he hasn't been playing much as of recently. And he only has 9 points in this game. Wasn't a great game from him overall. I thought he played within the role of the system, though. He wasn't, forcing shots or anything. It's just rough when, you're trying to come in and make an impact on a game that's already over. You just are playing in garbage time, and you need to show why you deserve more minutes than not. And when, it was a 45-point game when the stars went out, and it got down to whatever, less than 30 here. And it's hard to, prove to Joe Mazzulla that you deserve to be playing when you're playing against scrubs on one end and you're losing the lead anyway. Not that it was his fault in any way. But obviously, the show is not about Shireman. It's about, the performance of the stars in this game and Sam Hauser. And we talked about Jaylen Brown. We talked about how, everyone has the ability to rest up for a big 1 and 2 seed showdown on Monday. But Sam Hauser in this game, he said this on a podcast the other day, actually a while back, where you have basically 5 chances to make your first threes, right? And I think it's like you need to make 1 out of your first 2 3-pointer attempts, and then you need to make another out of your next three, which gives you a 2 for 5, which is a 40% three-point shooter. And he has his ups and downs this season. He was struggling mightily early on in the season. And, this is a game where he just needed to see the ball go in the basket. Just get his confidence back. Not that he lost his confidence, but he performs so well on both ends of the floor when his offense is rolling. And he's really out there to knock down threes. And that's what he did today. He went 10 of 21 on field goals. All 21 field goals were three-pointers. That is an NBA record for three-point attempts without taking a single two-point attempt. The previous record was 17. He just absolutely shattered that. And, it doesn't matter because he was shooting like 10 of 15 at one point in the game, 66% from three, and he just needed that one more three. And quite frankly, he just ran out of gas. He comes up one short for Marcus Smart's Celtics record of 11. Just crazy how Marcus Smart, of all people, is the one that has that three-pointer record. Like, he was probably the worst shooter out there at most times. It just feels like the best chance that he's had to break this record was last year in Washington, where he rolled his ankle. And he just ran out of gas in this game. I mean, I said this, but like those last shots, he was just forcing them up, spinning in midair, just throwing it up, tried to get some foul called. And at the end of it, there was probably still like 7 minutes left. He could have easily gotten the record for sure, which is sort of unfortunate. But Joe Mazzulla and Sam Hauser were just sort of laughing after a timeout. And we're like, okay, Joe Mazzulla was like, yeah, that's enough. I'm going to pull you. No reason to stay in this game to continue to just chuck up threes like that. Unfortunate because Sam Hauser would have gotten it. He just needed some rest to get his rhythm back. And had Joe Mazzulla put him back in, I'm sure he would have gotten it. But, I guess that is what it is. Sam Hauser always comes up 1-3 short. At some point, it feels like he's going to break this record. And, you just need a team like this where, everything's going for you to, and they just keep feeding you the ball, which is what happened. This is a game where you feel for a guy like Steph Curry, who's like running around a whole game doing stuff like that. And I know they talked about that on the broadcast as well. But like the fact that Sam Hauser was exhausted after just, 6 minutes of running around doing that, imagine what Steph Curry's doing all game when teams, face guard him. What else in this game? I thought Keita had a good bounce back game, 14 points, 5 of 7, a plus 39, 7 rebounds as well. Gonzalez had a good defensive game as well. Really everyone had a good defensive game. I mean, it's hard not to when you only give up 106 points, probably 15 of those are in garbage time. And so you're holding this team to 90, 85, 90 points, right? That's a brilliant defensive game in today's NBA. So like it's hard for me to look at one guy and say they, outperformed everyone in this game, right? We talked about this earlier. When everyone's shooting well, everyone's playing well defensively. That just is how it is. But I'm gonna wrap it up here because we are gonna do a podcast episode tomorrow, which we'll talk about this game as well, and we'll talk about the Miami game. I want to talk about Jason Tatum, who had a couple words leak out that he said in that Miami game, and we're gonna do a Patriots Texans preview as well on that, so stay tuned for that. That's coming out tomorrow morning. But yeah, until next time, the Boston Celtics win 132-106, absolutely dominate the Atlanta Hawks. They stay in second place in the Eastern Conference, and as I am recording this, the Knicks are winning, and they're probably going to win against the Suns. Oh no, sorry, the Knicks are down, and they're going to lose to the Suns. So they're going to be a full game up now on the New York Knicks for second place in the Eastern Conference. So, just unimaginable where this team would be, at the start of the season. Like, I don't think anybody expected this team to be 26-15, second place in the Eastern Conference at this point in the stage. This was supposed to be a gap year, and Jason Tatum could be back sooner than we expect. So, yeah, without further ado, go Celtics.